The question that started it all, the Great Hall of the Galactic War Tribunal, was silent. Alien leaders from 100 worlds sat in tall seats made of glass and steel, their glowing eyes fixed on the lone human standing in the center. His name was Commander Rylan Voss, a man whose very presence made alien warriors tense. Heavy cuffs bound his hands, glowing with energy that could burn through steel. But Rylan stood straight, his face calm, his eyes cold. The alien judge, a towering creature with silver skin and 6 eyes, leaned forward. His voice was deep and heavy, echoing across the chamber. "Human, tell this council your kill count." The words hung in the air like a blade ready to fall. Every alien in the room leaned forward, their strange faces tense with anticipation. They wanted a number, not out of curiosity, but to measure the threat. Humanity posed to the galaxy. Raylan's lips curved into the faintest smile. He didn't speak right away, and that made the tension worse. Some aliens clicked their jaws impatiently. Others whispered in their own languages. High above, thousands of recording drones hovered, sending every sound and movement across the galaxy in real time. Billions would watch this moment. Billions would hear his answer. But Rylan did not rush. He let his silence press against them. Like a weight, finally, he raised his head, meeting the gaze of the judge without fear. "You want my number?" he said softly, his voice carried even to the far corners of the hall. "Fine. But you'll wish you never asked." The crowd rippled with low murmurs. A sharp, insect-like alien on the prosecution table hissed, "You humans like to exaggerate." Rylan's eyes did not move to him, but the faint smile remained. Some in the gallery shifted in their seats, not from impatience, but from unease. There was something in his tone, something that told them the truth would not be comfortable. Rylan took a slow breath, and his mind began to drift back. The first time he had been asked for a kill count was years ago. It was during his first deployment, when he was just a young soldier. The war had only begun, and the galaxy thought humans were weak. They were wrong. His memories came sharp and clear. A freezing moon under a dark sky. A colony of 200 humans under attack from alien raiders. Rylan and his squad had been sent to hold the line until reinforcements arrived. The enemy had more ships, more soldiers, and better weapons. But Rylan had something else strategy. In that battle, he learned that aliens did not fight like humans. They fought with fear of loss. Humans fought with nothing to lose. He remembered running through burning corridors, blaster fire lighting up the walls, his hands steady, his aim true. Every alien he dropped that night was another step to saving a colony. When dawn came, the enemy ships were fleeing. His commander had asked him then, "How many did you take down?" He had not kept count, but others had. The number had spread through the fleet, and whispers had begun, whispers of the ghost of Orion. Raylan came back to the present, his eyes scanning the alien faces before him. Some of them knew that name, some of them had fought against him, and lost. The judge's voice broke the silence again. "Well, speak your number." Raylan tilted his head slightly. "You think this is about a number," he said quietly. "No, it's about what that number means." A sudden hum passed through the hall. Some aliens sneered, thinking he was stalling. Others listened carefully, as if they knew there was more to hear. He took another step forward, the chains rattling against his cuffs. "Every kill on my count," Rylan continued, "is a battle you started. It's a ship you sent to attack our worlds. It's a soldier who thought humans would bow." The room was silent now. Even the drones seemed to hover more quietly. His voice hardened. "You want the number? You'll get it. But you should understand every digit in that number is a warning." He looked directly into the judge's 6 eyes. "And when you hear it, you'll know why humanity can never be chained." A deep, uneasy silence fell over the tribunal. The aliens were no longer leaning forward with hunger for an answer. They were leaning back, as if something dangerous had entered the room. Ryland's faint smile returned. He knew exactly what he was doing, and in that moment, the galaxy knew this wasn't just about a kill count. It was about fear, power, and the truth that humans could not be broken. Asterisk whispers of the past. Questions still hung in the air. Billions across the galaxy were watching the human in chains, waiting for his answer. But instead of speaking the number, Ryland Voss closed his eyes. The tribunal hall faded from his mind, replaced by the sound of wind over steel and the smell of burning cities. It was not the first time someone had asked him for his kill count. Long before this trial, long before the galaxy even knew his name, he had been just another soldier in Earth's growing defense fleet. Back then, the war was still young. Humans were the newcomers in the stars, the species everyone thought would break under pressure. But even in those early days, something began to happen. Whispers. Stories of human ships that fought far beyond their weight. Stories of battles that should have been lost, but somehow turned into victories. Ryland's first posting had been to the defense of Vega Station. It was nothing more than a trade hub, a place where humans and aliens exchanged goods. But to the Zilth raiders, it was a perfect target. The attack came without warning. Dozens of black ships dropping out of warp, with weapons already firing. The station's defense force panicked. Ships fled. Captains screamed into the comms for backup. Ryland, just a junior officer then, had taken command of a small patrol squad. They had no heavy weapons, no large cannons. What they had were speed, precision, and the kind of human stubbornness that did not let go. He ordered his squad to dart in and out of the raider formation. Every pass tore into the enemy. Every pass left fewer ships in their way. By the time reinforcements arrived, the Black Raider fleet was scattering into the void. It was after that battle that he first heard the name. A Zilth survivor, in a recorded broadcast, had called him the Ghost of Orion. They said he appeared where no ship should be, struck without mercy, and vanished before the enemy could respond. At first, Ryland had laughed it off. But the name began to spread, one whisper at a time. The galaxy began to know that humans were not prey. He opened his eyes slowly, the tribunal walls coming back into view. Some of the alien officials were whispering to each other now. He could see them glance at him in ways that told him they knew part of the truth. The name Ghost of Orion had reached many ears. Even here, in the heart of alien law, it carried weight. The prosecutor, a scaled alien with a long ridge of horns down his spine, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Do not distract this council with old stories," he growled. "State the number." Ryland's gaze turned toward him. His voice was calm, but it carried an edge sharp enough to cut through the noise. "I'm not distracting you," he said. "I'm telling you why the number matters." There was movement in the gallery. Seats aliens shifting uncomfortably. Ryland's memories moved forward again, to the siege of Alther Prime. That was the battle that had set the galaxy on edge, a world rich in resources defended by an allied alien force, but attacked by one of the largest fleets the war had seen. Ryland had been tasked with holding the planet's orbital ring. It should have been impossible. They had 20 ships. The enemy had 200. The math made defeat certain, but humans did not fight with math alone. He had ordered a tactic no alien commander would dare try. Abandon the standard defense lines, pull the enemy in close, then tear their formation apart from the inside. It worked. One by one, enemy cruisers fell. Explosions lit the sky until the night above Alther Prime burned like a second sun by the Young. And the battlefield was silent, except for the drifting wreckage. That battle had added thousands to his count. It had also added to the fear in alien high councils, because they realized something important. Humans didn't just fight to win. They fought so the enemy would never dare return. The judge's deep voice brought him back to the present. "You speak as if you want to scare us." The alien said. Ryland's eyes locked on his. "I'm not trying to scare you," he replied. "If I wanted that, you wouldn't be sitting here." A ripple of uneasy laughter moved through the chamber. Some aliens understood the meaning behind those words. Others still believed he was bluffing. The drones above hummed louder, capturing every detail for the galaxy to hear. And somewhere, far beyond this courtroom, human fleets listened too. Rylan let his gaze sweep across the room. "You'll get your number," he said. "But before you do, you need to understand where it comes from." He took a single step forward, the sound of his chains echoing off the walls. "It's not just a count of the dead. It's a record of every time someone thought humans would kneel." The silence that followed was heavier than before, and as the session ended for the day, the whispers began again. Whispers of the ghost of Orion. Whispers that spread faster than light. Whispers that made alien commanders wonder if they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Asterisk. The siege of Alpha Prime. The tribunal chamber lights dimmed slightly as the recording drones adjusted their focus. Billions were watching the trial live, but at this moment, the entire galaxy seemed to be holding its breath. Raylan Voss stood, unmoving, his cuffs glowing faintly, the chain links swaying with each slow breath he took. Across the room, the alien prosecutor's lipless mouth curved into something like a sneer. "You speak of battles as if they make you more than a soldier." The alien said, "But your legends will mean nothing once we hear the number." Ryland's eyes narrowed slightly. "If you want to hear about numbers," he replied, "then you need to hear about Alpha Prime." At the mention of the name, a ripple moved through the audience seats. Even the most hardened alien generals knew the story. Some had fought there, and those who survived still bore the scars. He began to speak, his voice low but steady. "Alpha Prime was a jewel world," he said, "rich in ore, fertile in land, and guarded by the most advanced orbital ring our allies could build. The planet had been the pride of the Interstellar Defense Pact, until the Karvek Armada came. 200 warships, black as obsidian, dropped out of warp with their weapons. Blazing, the orbital ring lit up with return fire. But the math was simple: 20 defenders against 200 attackers. No one thought it could hold. I was ordered to hold the ring for 12 hours, Ryland continued. They said reinforcements would come by then? He looked up at the tribunal, his voice cutting through the air. They never came. Gasps and mutters filled the hall. The alien judge tapped a claw against his seat to silence them. Ryland went on. I knew that if we stayed in our defensive lines, we would be erased in minutes. So I ordered something no alien commander would have risked. He described the moment clearly, his fleet abandoning the outer perimeter, allowing the Karvik ships to push deep into the ring's orbit. The enemy thought the humans were retreating in panic. But then the trap closed. Small human corvettes darted through the gaps in the Karvik formation, firing at engines, targeting weak points. Cruisers followed, delivering precision strikes that tore apart enemy command ships. The sky above Alpha Prime became a storm of fire and metal. From the alien seats, a high-ranking Karvik officer shifted uncomfortably. He had been there. Ryland's eyes caught his for just a moment. You remember, Ryland said, not as a question, but as a statement. You saw what we did that day. The Karvik officer looked away, his jaw tightening. Ryland went on. We fought for hours, tearing your fleet apart from the inside. Every time you tried to regroup, we split you again. Every time you tried to retreat, we cut you off. One by one, the black warships became burning wrecks that rained down through the atmosphere. By the time the battle ended, only a handful of Karvik ships managed to escape. The rest floated lifeless above the planet, their crews gone. The people of Alpha Prime looked up and saw the night sky burning red. That battle alone had added thousands to his kill count, but more than that, it had changed the war. After Alpha Prime, Ryland said, his voice quieter now, your fleet stopped attacking human colonies for almost a year. Not because you couldn't. He paused, letting the silence stretch. But because you were afraid, in the audience, some aliens shifted in their seats, others leaned forward. Drawn into the picture his words painted, the prosecutor slammed his claws onto the table. "This is still stalling," he growled. "You are trying to frighten us with old battles." Ryland turned to face him, his voice calm but cutting. "If I wanted to frighten you, prosecutor, I'd tell you what happened to the ships that escaped Alpha Prime." The room fell silent again. Even the judge seemed to be watching more closely. Raylan didn't continue that thread, not yet. Instead, he stepped forward until the energy chains pulled taut. "The number you want is not a boast," he said. "It's a warning. And Alpha Prime was just one day of it." The judge's 6 eyes blinked slowly. "You are saying this was only a fraction of your total?" Ryland's answer was simple. "Yes." A collective murmur moved through the chamber. The recording drones caught every reaction, the disbelief, the fear, the curiosity, somewhere across the galaxy. Military strategists were watching and rethinking everything they believed about humans. The judge finally spoke again. "Very well, Commander Voss," he said. "Continue." Ryland's faint smile returned. "Oh, I will," he said, his voice dropping into a tone that promised the next story would be worse. Asterisk enemies who became witnesses the next session of the tribunal began with a tension thicker than before. News of Ryland's account of the siege of Alpha Prime had already spread across the galaxy. Every military leader, every intelligence network, every warlord with power was talking about it. The tribunal's audience seats were fuller now, packed with ambassadors, commanders, and spies, all waiting for the next piece of the human story. The judge's 6 eyes scanned the hall. "We will now hear from an official witness," he announced. The chamber doors slid open, and every alien head turned. What stepped through was unexpected an alien captain in full ceremonial uniform. Tall, with armor-like scales and deep crimson eyes, the kind of presence that made weaker beings look away. But what stunned the room was not who he was. It was what species he belonged to. A Karvik, one of the very same warlords Relan had fought. At Alpha Prime, gasps and mutters broke through the silence. The prosecutor's voice rose sharply. "This witness will prove the humans' victories are nothing but exaggerations." The Karvik captain stepped into the witness stand, his clawed hands resting calmly on the podium. He looked at Rylan, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then, in a deep voice, the captain said, "I was there. When the ghost of Orion burned our fleet, the chamber froze. Even the judge shifted slightly in his seat." The prosecutor frowned, his ridged crest tightening. "You admit to fighting this human?" "Yes," the Karvik captain replied without hesitation. "And I admit we underestimated him." Ryland said nothing, but a flicker of something respect perhaps crossed his eyes. The captain continued. "Our scanners showed his ships were weak. Our strategy was perfect, our numbers overwhelming. But we were wrong. He broke through our formation, tore our fleet apart, and then—" The captain hesitated, his gaze dropping for just a second. "He spared the survivors." A ripple of confusion moved through the audience. The prosecutor snapped. Why would a human spare his enemies if his goal was total destruction? The captain's eyes turned toward him. "Because," he said, "this human does not kill without purpose. When he kills, it is war. When he spares, it is a warning." The words echoed in the high ceiling of the hall. Several alien ambassadors exchanged uneasy glances. Rylan finally spoke, his voice calm. "You remember what I told your commander before I let you go?" The captain gave a slow nod. "You said, 'Run home. Tell them what happened here. Make sure they remember.'" Gasps erupted again. The judge's gaze narrowed. "So you spared him to spread fear?" Ryland's tone did not waver. "I spared him so the galaxy would think twice before sending more fleets to human worlds." The prosecutor slammed his claws down. "This is nothing but intimidation." Ryland turned toward him with the faintest smirk. You're only calling it intimidation because it worked. The judge raised a hand, silencing them both. Witness. Is there more to your testimony? The Karvik captain nodded slowly. Yes, there is. Alpha Prime was not the end of our encounters. The room leaned forward in unison. He continued. Months later, I faced him again, during the skirmish at the Vexor Belt. Could have destroyed my ship entirely, but instead, he disabled our engines and left us drifting. When rescue came for us, we found a single message burned into our comm system. Ryland's eyes narrowed slightly, knowing what the captain was about to say. The captain spoke the words slowly, so everyone could hear. That was mercy. Do not expect it again. The audience fell into a heavy silence. Even the prosecutor could find no words. A Karvik captain stepped back from the podium, his crimson eyes still locked on Ryland, and, in a voice almost too quiet for the recording, drones, he said. They call him the Ghost of Orion, but that is not the truth. The truth is, he is the storm. The judge's voice finally broke the silence. Commander Voss, it seems some of your enemies speak more in your favor than your allies. Ryland gave a faint smile. Enemies often see you more clearly than friends. He replied. The session ended soon after, but as the crowd filed out, the whispers spread faster than ever. Not just about the human's kill count, but about the possibility that mercy from a human was more dangerous than death itself. Asterisk. The battle that changed the war. The next morning, the tribunal hall was already packed before the session began. Word of the Karvik captain's testimony had spread across the galaxy overnight. Every military strategist, warlord, and political leader wanted to know what the human would say next. The judge called the court to order, his 6 eyes fixed on Ryland Voss. Commander, he said, we will now hear of the battle you claim changed the course of the war. Ryland stood tall, the glowing cuffs still binding his wrists. His gaze swept across the crowd, lingering for a moment on the ambassadors in the front row. This one, he said slowly, was different. It wasn't just about survival. It was about ending the enemy's belief that they could ever win. He began. The enemy had chosen a choke point in space, known as the Vera Corridor, a narrow stretch between 2 unstable asteroid fields where only one fleet could pass at a time. The plan from the alien coalition was simple: trap the human fleet there, overwhelm them, and make an example of them to the galaxy. It was meant to be a crushing, humiliating defeat. Instead, it became a nightmare they still whispered about. Ryland's fleet had been outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Hundreds of enemy ships blocked every escape route. The sky in every direction was filled with their hulls. Their weapons glowed like stars preparing to explode. But Ryland had already studied the corridor for weeks. He knew its hidden currents, the unstable asteroid patterns, the blind spots in enemy scanners. I didn't plan to fight them head on, he said, his voice steady. I planned to make them fight the battlefield itself. The first move was unexpected. Ryland's ships powered down their main drives. They let the enemy believe they were retreating or malfunctioning. As the alien coalition closed in, the human fleet suddenly vanished from scanners. Not because they had fled, but because they had used the asteroid shadows to hide. Then the trap was sprung. Human ships darted out from behind asteroids, firing in coordinated waves. Every volley was aimed not at the enemy ships themselves, but at the unstable rocks around them. Explosions triggered chain reactions, sending massive fragments tearing through the alien lines. The corridor became a storm of debris. Enemy vessels collided with one another in the chaos, their formation collapsing in minutes. Some alien commanders tried to retreat, but Ryland had already anticipated it. Smaller human craft had slipped behind the fleet earlier, sealing the exits. Now the enemy was trapped between a wall of fire and a graveyard of asteroids. The battle raged for hours. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, Raylan's fleet struck from a new angle. Every time they thought they had him pinned, he was already gone. When the dust finally began to settle, the Vera corridor was silent. Wreckage floated in every direction, the glow of burning hulls lighting the dark. That day, Ryland said, his voice lower now, half the enemy coalition's war capacity was destroyed. The rest scattered, too afraid to regroup. The judge leaned forward. And your own losses? Ryland's eyes didn't blink. Minimal. A wave of murmurs passed through the audience. The prosecutor slammed a clawed hand onto the table. You expect us to believe that you destroyed hundreds of warships and lost almost nothing? Ryland turned toward him. I don't expect you to believe it. He said, I expect you to remember it. Several alien ambassadors whispered urgently to one another. The battle at the Vera Corridor had indeed been recorded in their histories, and the records matched his account. What they had not known until now was how few human ships were lost. Ryland continued, From that day forward, the war changed. No one wanted to face the human fleet in open battle again. Even your most aggressive commanders hesitated. He let the silence stretch, his eyes locking with the judge's. Because they finally understood when you fight humans, you're not just fighting ships. You're fighting the mind behind them. The judge's voice was slow, almost thoughtful. And this, Commander Voss, you say, is still not the largest. Addition to your kill count? Ryland's answer came without hesitation. No. The air in the chamber seemed heavier. The recording drones tilted down toward him, their lenses glowing. If the Vera Corridor wasn't the largest, the judge said, then what was? Ryland's lips curved into that faint, dangerous smile again. You'll hear it soon enough. The crowd stirred, knowing that whatever came next would be worse than anything they had heard so far. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, commanders who had once fought humans began sending messages to their fleets, messages that began with one urgent order. Avoid the ghost of Orion at all costs. The number revealed the tribunal chamber was so quiet, it felt as if the air itself had stopped moving. For days, the galaxy had been waiting for this moment. From the first question to the tales of Alpha Prime and the Vera Corridor, Ryland Voss had built a wall of suspense brick by brick. Now the time had come to break it. The judge's 6 eyes fixed on him. Commander Voss, he said slowly, this council has heard your stories, your warnings, and your claims. But now you will answer the question directly. What is your kill count? Billions watched through the recording drones, in homes, on ships, in command centers across the stars. Alien civilians and military officers leaned toward their screens. Some wanted to hear the number to laugh at it. Others feared it so much they hoped it would never be spoken. Ryland stood tall, the glowing cuffs around his wrists casting faint light on his scarred hands. He let the silence stretch for a few seconds longer. Then he spoke. The number, he said, is 342,961. The chamber erupted. Gasps, shouts, and the hiss of alien voices in disbelief echoed off the walls. Some stood in shock. Others shook their heads as if refusing to believe it. The prosecutor's crest flattened against his skull, his mouth opening but no words coming out. The judge raised a claw for silence. You are telling us, he said carefully, that you, a single human, are personally responsible for over 300,000 confirmed kills? Ryland's answer was calm. Yes, the murmur started again, but this time it was sharper. Ambassadors whispered to aides. Military officers scribbled frantic notes. The number was not just large, it was terrifying, because it was no longer a rumor or an unconfirmed tale. It was a fact, spoken under oath, recorded forever in the Galactic archives. The prosecutor finally found his voice. You expect us to believe one soldier could reach such a number? Ryland turned to him slowly. I don't expect you to believe it. He said, I expect you to understand why your fleet stopped coming near human space. Images from old battles began appearing on the projection screens above the tribunal. Ship wreckage drifting in the dark. Alien worlds lit by burning skies. Fragments of intercepted enemy transmissions. Panicked voices shouting, It's him, Ghost of Orion break formation. The prosecutor's face hardened. You're using fear as a weapon. Rylan didn't deny it. Fear is a weapon. He said, and it's one humans learned to use when the galaxy decided to test us. The judge studied him carefully. And what should this council do with such a weapon? Rylan's faint smile returned. That's the real question. Isn't it? A ripple of unease moved through the room. Some members of the tribunal whispered urgently to each other. They knew the truth. The number was not just about Rylan. It was about what it meant for humanity as a whole. If one human could do this, what could an entire human fleet achieve? Somewhere in the back of the chamber, an alien general spoke in a low, rough voice. If this is true, then executing him will only turn him into a martyr, another answered. And letting him go could mean the end of our fleets. Rylan could hear them, but he didn't react. Instead, he looked straight into the lenses of the recording drones. I want every corner of the galaxy to remember this number, he said. Not as a trophy, not as a threat, but as proof that humans are not prey. The judge tapped a claw against the bench, the sound sharp in the silence. This session is adjourned for deliberation, he said. The gavel-like tone of his voice echoed through the chamber. But even as the officials began to rise, no one could stop thinking about the number. 342,961, a number that would haunt the galaxy for generations. Rylan allowed the guards to lead him away, the faint smile still on his lips, because he knew something the tribunal didn't yet understand. The number was only the beginning, asterisk. The aftermath the tribunal had ended for the day, but the galaxy did not rest. Across 1,000 worlds, the number was already being spoken in every port, every barracks, every council hall. 342,961. Not as a rumor now, not as a whisper, but as a fact carved into the galactic record. In the dark corridors of the tribunal complex, Rylan Voss was escorted back to his cell. The guards kept their distance, their eyes avoiding his. Even bound in glowing cuffs, the human seemed dangerous. Not because of what he might do now, but because of what he had already done. Far above the planet, fleets from every major power hovered in uneasy orbit. Some had been sent to watch the trial. Others had been sent in case the human needed to be silenced quickly, but none made a move. The number had frozen them. If one human could do this, what would happen if all of humanity rose together? In hidden chambers deep within the tribunal, alien ambassadors met in secret. Some argued for Rylan's immediate execution. Others warned that killing him would only provoke a human response they could not survive. The Karvik captain who had testified stood alone in a corner, silent. He knew what most of them refused to admit. The ghost of Orion had not revealed everything. On human worlds, the news spread like fire. Military academies replayed the trial footage on every screen. Young recruits memorized the battles he had described. Civilians spoke his name with pride. For them, Rylan was not just a soldier. He was proof that humans could stand against the galaxy and not break. Inside his dimly lit cell, Rylan sat on the narrow bench. The faint hum of the energy cuffs filled the silence. He stared at the wall, not seeing it. His mind was already elsewhere calculating. Planning, the trial was not the endgame. It was only a move in a larger war. A quiet hiss came from the corner, and a small device unfolded from the wall. A hollow projection flickered to life. The face of an Earthfleet admiral appeared, her voice low and controlled. "Commander Voss," she said, "you've done exactly what we needed." Rylan's lips curved into that faint, knowing smile. "They're afraid." He said simply. The admiral nodded. "Afraid enough that when the real fleet moves, they won't be ready." Outside the tribunal, alien news networks ran the same footage again and again. The moment the number was spoken, the gasps, the stunned faces, the silence that followed. On the outer rim worlds, pirate lords canceled raids into human sectors. On core worlds, political leaders demanded new defense treaties. In military bunkers, Generals whispered the same order: avoid contact with the ghost of Orion at all costs. But not all took the warning. Some saw the trial as a challenge. In the shadows of the galactic frontier, mercenary fleets began to gather. They told themselves that the human's legend was exaggerated, that he was only one man and no man could be unstoppable. Rylan knew they would come, and he welcomed it. In the grand chamber of the tribunal, the judge sat alone, reviewing the day's recordings. He watched Ryland's face as the number was spoken. There was no pride there, no gloating, only certainty. The judge leaned back slowly. This war, he whispered to himself, is far from over. Back in his cell, Ryland closed his eyes. He could hear faint rumbles in the distant ships moving in orbit. Preparing for departure, the galaxy believed it had learned the measure of him. They were wrong. The number was not his limit. It was his history. And history had a way of repeating itself. When the guards came to take him away the next morning, he was ready, not because he knew where they were taking him, but because he knew no matter what happened next, the galaxy would never forget the day it asked for his kill count. And the human told them the truth. Asterisk.